wanting to experience more, and knowing that we're not meant to do this alone.
Hey everyone, welcome to Chronicles of the High-Powered Female CEO. And I'm so excited today to bring you Shayla. Welcome, Shayla.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us how people typically know you.
So I am a high performance coach for the high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals. I always say entrepreneurs, executives, and just excellent human beings. So really, I'm the one that you go to when you've literally achieved all of your dreams, made all of your money, and then you're like, okay, so now what? Like, what's next after I've literally done everything that I've set out to do? And we really dive into the now what and the so what, because once you get to a certain level, like money, I mean, I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but it's no longer your like wheelhouse. It's no longer your driving force. And then we start to dig into family dynamics, like personal development, all of those types of things. And so I am I would like to say the best friend to a lot of very, very rich individuals.
Awesome. I get the sense from you, and just in the short time that we've known each other, that you have a huge capacity to support people.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting that we believe as a society, like the more money you make, almost the less human you are. And we also are somebody, like, we tend to think that, like, money solves everything, right? And I like to say that money only solves money problems. So that's where I step in, and that's where I get to work with individuals. I like to say I humanize superhumans, and I'm really empathetic and understanding of all different types of situations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now that we have some context around who you are and what you do, I just want to hear from your heart. It's always my intention that other high-level businesswomen will hear these interviews and will literally feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like I am seen. I am like normalize some of those things that have us put up our walls and our barriers around ourselves so that they can start to melt down, so that women who are out in the world making massive impact can also have deep, fulfilling, meaningful relationships, because that's
Right.
like that, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, Shayla, what are some of the things that are most sacred and precious to you?
I think that what is most sacred to me and what is most precious to me has to be my family. And it's something that, like, I don't think you know until you know. And I have three beautiful kids, and the reason why I do what I do is so that I can be very present in their lives, and like be very active, and be able to do all the things that are going to support them, and to see them so happy. So that is something. My children are super sacred to me. My family is super sacred to me. It's something like it's part of my why. So absolutely.
And in your pursuit to success and serving at the level that you now do, did you ever run into a situation where you felt like you were kind of being asked to sacrifice those things, or yeah, what's that been like for you?
Yeah. So often I would say, especially early on in my career when I was in corporate and trying to understand and learn how to navigate the high performance or high achiever type role, just because that was naturally who I was. But when you don't have children or you don't have a spouse, it's very different than when you actually do. So I remember I was a high-end matchmaker, and I had just won an award for achievement of being like one of the top sellers and helping my office, like, I don't know, quadruple its numbers or something else like that. I can't remember exactly all that it was. But what was really interesting was that I I remember my director at the time talking about me. I didn't know I was getting the award, and she was like, "Yeah." And at the time, you know, I was married, so I had two other children, but it was more so like, she's like, and she has 5 kids, and she was, you know, hitting the pavement. She was this, she was that, like, she was in the office, she was taking work home, she was all of this other stuff, and she has exceeded our expectations. And so, yes, in the moment I was like, oh my God, like, yay, so great. But then I realized, like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, it's stressful. It's really hard having little kids, and to no fault of anybody else's, but doing this type of work, like the level of work that I was doing, and I was sacrificing myself for that. You know, I was, and it wasn't that it was asked, you know, but it's implied, like, you've got to do the work. And what I did and what I was able to achieve was like phenomenal. But I then went on to decide that I no longer wanted to sacrifice those types of things. I didn't want to sacrifice my time. I didn't want to sacrifice my personal time with my family. I didn't want to sacrifice my own personal time. And nor did I want to sacrifice the achievement or the job that I was doing. So I got to figure out, like, how do we make this all work? Like, how do I have it all? And so it took me on a journey of really, really figuring out, like, my core values, the things that I desire, the things that I want, my non-negotiables, as well as how to create harmony within my life so I can have all of those things. It's easier to say, like, people always talk about balance, and I don't believe in balance, because balance means that all things are equal, and that's not how it works in my world anyway. It's about harmony and creating, like, a beautiful harmonic tone that maybe, you know, 50% is family, 20% is work, 10%, you know, is my own personal time, whatever it looks like, you know. But it there's no balance. It creates a beautiful, like, harmonic symphony in my world that just simply works for me.
So it sounds like, I mean, through your journey, you've had some ups and downs and bumps. You've been a mom at one time to 5, and so I'm guessing that means there was a split up and stuff there. What was that like for you in still trying to build a career, but going through loss of love and stuff?
Yeah, that, you know, and I think, what was it at the time? I think that was right in the beginning of my, like, full-time entrepreneurial career, but it was on the end of me being, you know, a private high-paid matchmaker, you know, figure that out. So it's like, oh, great. Like, how does that even work? And I mean, I wish I could tell you that it was easy, but it was not. It was very challenging, because the other thing is, I knew myself inside of that relationship, and I'd been there for so long. We were like high school sweethearts and everything else like that. I mean, back and forth. He had gotten married and divorced before and things of that sort. But it was really figuring out, like, who am I outside of this relationship, which I never really spent time on, because I was so focused on my relationship. I was so focused on my family that I didn't necessarily focus on Shayla. So it was a very humbling experience. It was a very challenging transformation for me, because I came out of this like, who really am I? And I didn't know.
Fascinating. Wow.
Right. You don't know. And you don't know. And recreating that or creating that is interesting. And for me, it was also like, I did so many things, and this is no slight, you know, to him or anything, to please him. and to make our family work, but I was almost robotic. It wasn't who I really was. And when I started to discover who I was, and what I wanted, that's when our relationship started to crumble.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. And I think I hear this very commonly among women business owners where it's like you can have a super strong sense of your identity in your workplace, but go home and feel like I don't even know who I am. So I so value your journey because I think it's a common journey that many women have to face. And in the face of it, you feel like a fraud, like an
Yeah,
imposter, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And what's interesting is, especially when women, I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but when women really like start to come into their own, and they just so happen to be in a relationship, whether that is with a spouse or a partner, at the time, you'll see a lot of women, especially very like high performing, high achieving women, high level money making women, get divorces.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
it takes us very, and not to say, to say this, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, but you'll understand what I mean. Like, it takes a very strong man to be able to now accept, the woman that's before him, that maybe he didn't know at all. And it can be very challenging. It can be very almost off-putting, because the
Mhm.
person that you married is not who she is today, which in general, I think that if you aren't willing to grow with this individual, then marriage is probably not a great option, because if you're the same that you were when you started your marriage, then I think personally that we have some work to do. So,
It's so true. And it is interesting, this notion of like growing apart and those sorts of things. And I do like question and sort of want to like always like challenge that, because I'm like, why can't we just grow together, right?
right,
But at the same time, when one person's unwilling to grow in the same direction at all, and the other person is like, I'm willing to do whatever, like, let's make
exactly.
this work,
Yeah.
right? Like, it is so heartbreaking and difficult.
Yeah.
So, is there a special someone in your life now?
No. So I know, I'm like, no, I'm fine with that. What's really interesting though is like I have consciously chosen for 2022 not to date. So what was great about that is last year I had like an amazing time. So I dated some really high quality, like phenomenal men. It was so much fun. But I also know, like, for me, there's a level that I'm now getting to, and there are things that I consistently wanted to work on my own self and my own personal journey, where I felt that it was better that I did that alone and not carry somebody else with me through that. Some people choose to carry people, with them through that, and that's absolutely fine. It's up to you. But I felt that also, like, since I have the opportunity, I can do this alone, and I don't have to be responsible to anyone else except for my children and myself. And so sometimes I believe that like solidarity is key in some situations. But I'm someone who I totally believe in love. Like, I know my Prince Charming is out there. Several of them are out there. It's just my choice. Um, but I
Yeah.
always say, like, I totally believe that God is not an asshole. And so you have so many soulmates. Like, don't believe there's only one, honey. There's several all across the world for you. You get to choose at any time. And so I'm excited about what's to come in 2023 for me. I'm preparing myself because I do want marriage. So I'm preparing myself for that as well, and doing the things that I believe are going to assist with that and help me to call in the relationship, the love, and the level of individual that I desire.
I just thank you for sharing like so
Yeah.
much, because this is like, you know, a lot of women are terrified of being alone.
Oh my God.
And like, look at you. Like, I can feel your sincerity about your experience and your joy and your success and what you're able to create on your own. And also to hold that space, that
Yeah.
co-creative space that like, when the right time is here, like I will be ready. And like, that's the goal. And that is so beautiful, Shayla. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. It's a hard thing, you know. Most people, I was talking to one of my best friends about this, and like people ask all the time, like, are you lonely? And I'm like, not at all. Like, not at all, not at all. And I was walking, I think outside in nature the other day, and I was just like looking at the birds and the clouds and the sun, and I'm just like, life is so beautiful. Like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, am I lonely? Like, I asked myself, I'm like, no, I'm really enjoying life. And I think that's the thing that we have to be able to do is like enjoy your time alone, like make it fun, enjoy your time with the world, because inside of a relationship, if you've ever been in either a long-term relationship or a marriage, you understand like what that's really about, right? And I always say like the marriage is just or the wedding is just a day, but your marriage is like most of the time, not all the time, but most of it a lifetime. And it starts with the wedding, you know, but that's just a single representation, but really the work starts afterwards, and you are two humans like coming together as one, if you believe that, and working through things and doing things. And it's not always as easy as we make it look, but if you want it, it's totally worth it. So that's why I get to enjoy my time now when I don't have responsibilities outside of myself, my business, my kids, because I do want to make the space and create the space for the type of relationship that I desire, and that's going to take some work.
Wow. As we begin to wrap up this conversation, there's two more questions that I want to ask, and just again to bring forward your heart and let us get to know who you are, the person that's always like behind the scenes supporting people, understanding who you really are. So the first question is, now in your life, what does feel vulnerable? What feels interesting right now?
What feels interesting?
Like vulnerable, or you know, a little like shaky, or you know.
What feels shaky? You know what? My physical health actually is something that I'm very vulnerable about, and like like, well, it feels a little shaky right now because I'm not where I want to be. And it's really hard to like say that, because also in another career, I was a personal trainer as well as a group exercise instructor. And I still have over like 10 certifications for group exercise and personal training and everything. So, I mean, I still dibble and dabble in it, but that at one time was like my full-time thing. And I was in like the complete best shape of my life. It was like freaking amazing. And now, like, not that I age or anything, but now it's very different. My body is requiring different things that I'm used to. And I'm like, what? Like, what I used to do no longer works. And it's very challenging for someone who is a high performer, identify as a high achiever, high performer, when like you know how to do it, but it's not working. And that's the same thing that happens in business as well, which is why it's great to have coaches and mentors who can see what you can't see, because there's always a cap. No matter how great you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how intelligent you are, there's always someone who's able to see things that you aren't able to see. So it's humbling for me to say, oh God, I have to get a trainer. When I'm like, I know this. And I literally can still work everybody out. Like, people still call me to like help them, and I can do it. But for myself, it's not working. So it's very challenging for me to have to say, I need help.
Beautiful. I think that's so, like, it is that stigma that you said that when we're wealthy and successful, maybe we no longer have any humanness. So thank you for being willing to share that. And the last question that I want to ask you is, tell us about a time when you felt the most fulfilled in your life.
I felt the most fulfilled. For me, fulfillment comes with, okay, so one of the times, I'm like, there's so many. There's a time that I felt really, really fulfilled, is when I see my children succeed. And what I mean by succeed is it's not necessarily always the grades or things of that sort, but it's their consciousness and understanding, and humanness that they're able to apply and give to other individuals. And I don't know, as a parent, and as a conscious parent, what's very interesting is the fact that, like, we know so much more than our parents knew, right? And also me understanding, like, spirituality, psychology, and all of these things, it's like the traumas, the things that happen and everything else. So you're hyper, hyper, hyper aware of these things, and you're trying not to mess up your children, right? And also at the same time, there's that very humanness where it's like, is anybody listening? What's happening? Does anybody care? Like, and do you hear me? Like, do you see? Do you understand? So actually a great moment was happened to me. Was it today? Yeah, today. So my daughter, who she just graduated from high school, she's 18. And she's chosen not to go to college. And she's told me since she was 7, she's not going to college. So she's a Taurus. It's a whole different other story. And so she had an interview at this, like, a amazing place yesterday or whatever else. And my daughter, you would think, because if you know me personally, I'm big, I'm bubbly, I'm like super out there, super extroverted. And my daughter, not so much. She's her own person. Now she's excellent in her own ways, like phenomenal in so many different ways, including, like, she has her own business, and has since she's 12. She is an elite athlete and things of that sort. And so she has her own areas of expertise, but seemingly just like mom, like the conversation or just the bubbliness and everything else is like not one of them. So she applied for this position that is going to require a lot of, like, conversation, a lot of character, and all of these things. And she had an interview yesterday, and we just so happened to have a family friend that was there, that was part of the interview. She didn't know that she was, but that was part of the interview. And so when I picked my daughter up from her interview, she said she got the job, and I was like, oh my God, that's so great. And so excited, great. But I had feedback, like I heard feedback from the other individual who was there, and they were like, oh my God, everybody loved her. And like, they were so excited that she did so well. I'm like, is this the same kid? Like, are you kidding me? And she's like, no, she did. She's like, she surprised me. She did so well. And so my heart, I was like, oh my God, God loves me. My heart is like exploding, because I'm like, she listens, right? And granted, maybe I don't see it, the world sees it, and not even just the world, but she has it inside of her. Because I was like, you just might be like your father, and that kind of sucks. I'm so sorry. We can't choose our DNA. It goes where it wants to go. But it was like one of those moments where it's like, I'm not sucking as a parent. And it makes me feel so good that, like, all the yelling, the screaming, the apologizing, the talking, the showing, the proving, the doing, the exampling. And it's like, is anybody listening? And it's a little sprinkle of, they are.
I feel like any mom listening would relate to everything you just said. My oldest is 12, about to turn 13. So we're just about to enter these teen years. And I'm like, okay, can we do this?
Interesting. And they're their own little people. And so it's so funny, because I'm like, dude, I literally work with some of the richest people in the world, and my kids don't give a shit about me. Like, they don't care. They don't care. They don't listen to mom. As long as the bills are paid and they can have everything they want, you know. It's crazy. And so it's like, you know, the duality of life, you know.
Oh my gosh. Shayla, thank you so much. You guys go follow Shayla here on Facebook even. Her posts are amazing. If you resonate with the things I write, you're going to resonate with the things she writes. It's so beautiful, especially, you know, if you're a business owner and these sorts of things, go give her a follow. And what a treat this has been. Thank you for showing us your heart and giving us a little peek behind the curtain.
Absolutely. I loved it. I loved it. And I love the way that you did this because, you know, I mean, you know how it is. But I think, once again, when you're able to humanize superhumans, it shows you that we're all superhumans.
Amen. Oh, perfect note to end on. Thank you guys so much for participating and watching today. And like I said, go give Shayla a follow, and also go check out all the other episodes of the Chronicles of the High Powered Female CEO. You can go to the link that we've listed, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Shayla.
Bye, guys.